Hi there, and welcome back to the Aging Grace podcast. My name is Andrew Blakey, your host, and today we're diving into a topic that, in my opinion, doesn't get nearly enough attention, but it has a massive impact on your health, your longevity, and the way that you live your life. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you trained your feet? I'm not talking about running or walking. I mean actively working on foot strength, mobility, and stability. And if your answer is never, or I don't think I have, you're not alone. I myself neglect my feet when it comes to my training, up until I read a little bit more about it. But most people completely ignore their feet in their fitness routine, even though they're the foundation of every step we take, every squat we perform, and every movement that we do. And by the end of this episode, you're going to understand why foot health is essential for longevity and how weak feet can lead to bigger problems like knee and back pain. And most importantly, what you can start doing today to help strengthen them. So first things first, why should you even care about foot strength? Well, think about this. Your feet contain, wait for it, 26 bones, 33 joints, and over 100 muscles, tendons, and ligaments. They are literally the foundation of every movement that we make. And when the average person walks around, 7 to 10,000 steps a day, over the course of their lifetime, that's the equivalent of walking around Earth about 3 to 4 times. Not only that, but having a functional foot has a large impact on the distribution of forces within our body. So think about this. Our body loves momentum. And when our feet are functioning properly, it's able to disperse those different forces that we accumulate from walking, running, or going up and down stairs. But the problem lies in that modern life has, in sense, made us a little bit more disconnected from our feet. We wear stiff, cushioned shoes all day long. We walk on flat, predictable surfaces, and we spend hours sitting down. And all of these things weaken the muscles in our feet and disrupts the natural movement patterns of them. So you might be thinking, okay, but I don't have foot pain, so why does this matter? Well, here's the really interesting thing. Foot dysfunction doesn't just stay in your feet. Weak arches, stiff or weak toes, or tight ankles can cause a chain reaction up your body. And just one example of that is I'm going to share a quick story here. About 7 years ago, when I was playing college volleyball, I used to be very, very big at volleyball. I played very competitive volleyball. I had a very bad, severe high ankle sprain. And at the time, we were on a break from school, so I was able to do, between 4 to 5 hours of physio and rehab every single day. And even with this intense rehab and physio protocol and routine that I needed to do in order to be able to play for when it mattered, even to this day when I wake up, there are still days where I wake up and my ankles and my feet don't feel quite right. And that could be from a multitude of reasons, including scar tissue or whatnot, but we're not going to dive deep into that one. We've got a whole different episode with Dr. Tim Rindlisbacher from the first season that talked about old injuries and how they affect us later in life. Go give that a listen. But the reason why I mention this is because your feet affect your ankles, which affect your knees, which affect your hips and lower back. And if you've had an old injury with your ankle or your foot, there's a good chance, again, can work its way up the chain in one way or another. So if your feet can't absorb impact properly, that force, it has to still go somewhere. And again, that often leads up the chain into possible knee pain, hip issues, or even lower back problems. Now, there's even studies that show that poor foot mobility, and more specifically weak toe strength, can potentially increase fall risks as we age. In particular, there was one study, and it talked about how incorporating specific foot and ankle exercises is usually a very effective component for a falls prevention program. It's a kind of one of those key components. So if you've ever had tight calves, if you've ever suffered from shin splints, knee pain, or even trouble balancing on one foot, well, your feet could be the issue, or at least a contributing factor. So we know why it's important, but let's talk about some of the common signs of weak or dysfunctional feet. And we're just going to fly through these. I'm just going to mention them. They're yes or no questions. So the first sign is you have trouble balancing on one foot. If you have to put your foot down quickly when you lift it up, or your foot stability doesn't kind of feel quite right, but if you wobble when you're balancing on one foot, your foot stability might be an issue. Sign number 2 is that you can't spread your toes apart easily. This shows that you may have poor foot mobility or poor foot and toe control. And your toes should be able to move independently. And I don't want to say just like your fingers, but you should be able to kind of wiggle your big toe, wiggle your small toe, and kind of wiggle the 3 in between. The third sign is that your feet always feel stiff or they cramp easily. And this could mean that your foot muscles are weak or overworked or underdeveloped. Sign number 4, you wear supportive shoes all the time. If you rely on cushioned or arch supported shoes, your feet aren't really learning how to properly support themselves and move effectively. And if you've worked with a chiropodist or podiatrist and they've recommended these special shoes for you, well, hey, listen to them, because you know what? They've done a thorough assessment of you. They know more about your feet than I ever will. So listen to what the advice is that they give you. And if you feel like you are having different issues with your feet, then consider going to see a podiatrist or chiropodist to learn a little bit more about them and how you can kind of relieve some of the different issues that you're going through. The 5th sign is that you experience things such as shin splints, knee pain, or plantar fasciitis. All of these things are potential signs that your feet might not be absorbing impact properly or having some sort of dysfunction. So if these sound familiar, don't worry. I'm going to give you some different ways to help strengthen your feet and improve mobility as well. So let's get into a couple different ways that you can help to promote strong feet. Well, the first way is doing something called barefoot training. It's spending at least 10 to 15 minutes a day walking around barefoot. This helps your feet to kind of relearn natural movement. You can walk around your house, you can do some body weight squats, or you could even try short outdoor walks without shoes. Now, I know that this sounds silly, but I want to give you a particular case. When you think of somebody in the gym working out, oftentimes you'll see people doing squats either barefoot or with these funky, hard shoes that don't really move. Now, the reason why that is because when you do a squat with shoes that are super cushiony, such as running shoes, you actually lose some of the force you produce into that cushioning. It's kind of taking some of that force and absorbing some of that force. So that's one of the reasons why people will do squatting barefoot, not just so that they can produce more foot or more force, but also so that they can kind of disperse the force in a way that's a little bit more natural. The second way that you can strengthen and mobilize your feet is doing very specific toe mobility drills. Try this. I'm going to give you one that you can do right now. I'm doing it right now underneath my desk as we speak. You can place your foot flat on the ground and lift just your big toe while keeping the others down. And then do the opposite. Keep your big toe down and lift the rest. And if that's tough, then it might mean that your toe muscles are weak and it's something that you might want to focus a little bit more on. The third thing that you can do to strengthen and mobilize your feet is something called the short foot exercise. Stand or sit with your foot flat on the ground and try to create an arch by pulling the ball of your foot towards your heel. If this sounds difficult, it's because it is. Again, I'm doing it right now and I'm struggling with it. And it's something that I probably need to focus on a little bit more as well. And this particular exercise helps to strengthen the intrinsic foot muscles that stabilize your arch in your feet. The fourth thing you can do is focus on balance drills. Now, I talk a lot about balance drills either on this podcast or other podcasts that I speak on. And the reason being is because balance is a very big part of being able to stay independent later in life. If you don't have your balance, then you can't stay at home safely. You can't be out traveling the same way as you normally would. And so that's why I think balance drills are huge, is because it helps you to promote the different little stabilizing muscles, both within the feet and the lower limb, to help you stay balanced. So one of the ways you can do this is just standing on one foot for 30 to 60 seconds at a time. Once that it's easy, you can make it a little bit more difficult by either closing your eyes or standing on a soft surface like a pillow. Our vision plays a massive role on our ability to stay balanced. And I think you'll notice that if you try that drill. And the fifth and the last way that you can focus on strengthening and mobilizing your feet is by using foot-friendly footwear. If you're feeling, or if you're wearing stiff, overly cushioned shoes all the time, it's almost like they're being casted. So again, if your chiropodist or podiatrist told you to wear a specific kind of footwear, then listen to them, because again, they've assessed your foot and they know more about your situation than I do. But one of the things that I think that a lot of us deal with are wearing shoes that are just either very stiff or overly cushioned. I mean, think about it. Our dress shoes, our feet don't really move. You know, if you're somebody who wears high heels, then again, your foot is just being casted there and doesn't really move naturally. And so transitioning to more of a shoe for everyday life that has something like a larger toe box, meaning a kind of a wider end, allows your feet and your toes to move in a more natural way and kind of relearn the proper way of kind of supporting your foot and moving more efficiently and hopefully more effectively. That reduces any sort of pain or symptoms that you might be experiencing. Now, these issues don't take much time, these exercises don't take much time, but they can really have an effect on the way that your body moves and feels. So if you feel like you're having issues with your feet, again, I strongly recommend going to a podiatrist or a chiropodist or some other foot specialist. So why do strong feet allow us to have better longevity and injury prevention? Well, as we age, one of the biggest risks to our health is falling. And the reason being is because falling leads to fractures, hospitalizations, and again, coming back to it, that loss of independence. And you know what one of the biggest predictors of falls is? It's actually poor foot strength and balance. So by keeping your feet strong and mobile, you improve your stability, your posture, and your movement efficiency. And this means fewer injuries, better workout, and a more active lifestyle as you do age. Plus, if you're somebody who's an athlete or just somebody who likes staying active, foot strength helps your ability to generate power, absorb impact, and move properly. So the bottom line is that stronger feet allow you to have that better movement, fewer injuries, and in my opinion, a longer, healthier life. So I know that we covered a lot here today. So let's just do a quick recap. Some of the big things that I want you to take away from this conversation. So the first one is that your feet are the foundation of your movement, but most people ignore them. And weak feet can lead to all these different issues up the chain of our body, right? Feet can lead to knee pain, hip issues, back pain, and balance problems as you age. Now, the second thing I want you to remember is that simple exercises like toe mobility drills, short foot exercises, and barefoot training can all help to restore strength and function. And lastly, strong mobile feet allow you to feel better in multiple areas of your life outside of your training, right? I mean, even things such as, walking on the beach or going away on vacation or doing your everyday activities are going to feel better when your feet are strong, mobile, and where they should be. So I know, again, that we covered a lot here today, but I'm going to leave you with the challenge. Try just one foot strengthening exercise today. Maybe it's balancing on one foot while you brush your teeth or doing a few toe lifts while sitting at your desk. Again, these things don't take much, but these small changes can have a big impact. Now, I hope you found this episode helpful. If you did, share it with a friend who needs to hear this. And if you try any of these exercises, send me a message on Instagram at @IamAndrewBlakey. I'd love to hear how all these things go for you. And if you haven't followed us or subscribed already, do that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to. And I'm so happy that you're able to listen to this episode today. So thanks for tuning in. Again, this is Andrew, and thank you for joining with The Aging Grace.